When I was growing up, mobile phones weren't even a thing. The way you got connection, significance, variety, things like that really get people going were through getting physically active. That was what happened in my country. Back then, it wasn't really focused on, hey, we need to get you healthy. It was just a school requirement. You had to be this way.
Being a dad is one of the most rewarding roles we will ever have in our lives, but also can be one of the most overwhelming, where we find ourselves facing the pressures of juggling the demands of our family, careers, and life. This show will feature industry experts in mental health, social services, and personal development, along with resilient dad role models, whose stories of overcoming the challenges of parenting get a new vision for the life you and your kids deserve. I'm your host, Pat DiDomenico, and this is the Resilient Dad Show. Welcome back to another episode of the Resilient Dad Show. And on season 2, where we'll be taking you on the journey of self-discovery and leadership and guiding you to a life of prospering with fulfillment. Today, we have the honor of having our special guest, Juris Skribans, who's an experienced nutritionist with a demonstrated history of working with sports industry, skilled in coaching, sales, management, teamwork, and leadership. Strong community and social services professional with a master's degree focused in sports and exercise nutrition from Leeds Beckett University. Juris, welcome to the show.
Well, glad to be here. That's a strong start.
Yeah. And obviously you've been my coach and trainer for the last 6-7 months. So that's how we met. And so I've had firsthand experience of your work, which I can definitely highly recommend. Thank you for coming on to discuss men's health. One very important topic in general, and obviously one that you have much knowledge on.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there are so many things unsaid when it comes to men's health, and probably would be good to open up about them more because there is a lot of stigma attached to it as well. So I'm here to help and kind of get some clarity out there, what I am looking at and what maybe people can look themselves up in their spare time and what they actually should be looking at as well.
So a bit more, for the audience to understand, like, where did your journey start in the health and fitness industry and, to leading to where you are now?
This is always a bit tricky one. So I started to work in health and fitness industry only because people were telling me that I am good at giving advice. But it started from being born in Soviet Union because the upbringing was extremely physical. So you were emphasized to be physically and mentally strong. That was it. You couldn't even graduate school if you were not successful in sports lessons. Everything you did in sports lessons had to be graded. If you were not successful, you would be left behind for another year. People wouldn't care if you know chemistry, physics, if you don't do physical activity. So at least 3 hours a week, you would do something, play basketball, football, whatever, throw some balls, and you had to be graded on that. Gymnastics, everything. And if you do that every single week for 16 years or so, it kind of gets engraved in you. And that's it. So when I first started, actually, when I got qualified as personal trainer first and then went into university, study sports science, biomechanics, nutrition, all those kind of things, I already knew a lot of things because educational system where I was raised before we left Soviet Union and became independent country of Latvia, one of the 3 countries of Baltic states, was very heavily based on how to be healthy for life. We actually had lessons where you had to learn how to be a man, which probably now wouldn't suit very well. But we had a class where you got to learn how to be a woman and a man. So how to swap a car tire, build a doghouse. We even learned how to build machine guns. It was crazy. And when I moved to UK, after a while, when we joined the European Union, so why not explore a little bit, move to UK? And that's where I went to gyms and started to train there. And people were just asking questions and I would just give them advice. And they would come over and say, look, I've had personal trainer for so many years and he had never told me these things, which to me were just a common knowledge just because of the country I come from. So I thought I'll re-educate myself, qualify properly so I can actually work legally in the industry. And I just took everything up a level until a few years ago. It's 6-7 years ago now. I got my master's degree in sports nutrition and kind of slowed down after that just to actually implement my knowledge. And this is why my thinking is always extremely critical in terms of understanding the difference between science and practical application. I have been training ever since I know myself, since I was this big. But in resistance training itself, so weightlifting and such, was from around age of 14. And I was extremely lucky being born in a country that has very low population density. So you knew the best people to approach. And if you work hard, they would come and give you advice. So I never had money because I come from poor upbringing. But I got lucky to train in the same gym where national powerlifting coach was training. And he just took me under his wing and just trained me for free, which was exceptionally great opportunity. So, and now when I went to university and studied everything there, I actually had to do, when you do your master's degree, you have to do a proper research. And this is where I understood that what you see in research and in real life sometimes don't match. Because research is done on very, very small amount of people for a very specific setting, and it only needs to be taken as a guideline. And there will be very small amount of research done on someone like myself. I am 175 centimeters, 5'8" or whatever it is in inches and feet. I'm not really entirely sure. And 120 kilos. So I am extremely overweight. People usually say like, "Oh, what are you talking about? You're not fat." I didn't say I'm fat. I said I'm overweight. This is not healthy to begin with. And the difference is that, is that people need to understand that studies on someone like myself will probably never be done. Because first of all, it's not healthy to be my size. And then it will be hard to find ethics to put study through to get someone like myself who is literally willing to kill themselves in a gym through something that can be later passed on as a knowledge acquired in this specific setting. So when I work with someone like yourself, we're always going to use science as a guideline, but there will be a lot of personal input into recognizing the patterns and recognizing what might be going wrong. We talked off camera a little bit about blood tests. But those are just one of the things. So what got me into it was just needs. I just felt like people keep telling me that they are not getting the right service. And I'm like, oh, this is easy for me. Might as well learn more about it. And I'm glad I did, because that exposed me to a lot of mentors that I can still talk to daily. And mentoring taught me way more than studies ever did.
Well, real life experience, as you're saying, there's a huge difference to theory to actual practical, because everything works well in theory until it's actually achieved or actually done. So it's interesting that you mentioned that during your upbringing and where you were brought up, the physical exercise was a key element to life and requirement for schooling for you to actually pass. What's the difference that you see in where were brought up in that mindset in terms of that kids need to be physically active all the time compared to these days where, yes, they say that kids need to be active as such, but it's not really activity. It's like, go ride your bike down the road or go to the park for a little bit, but not necessarily active as what you were mentioning, playing sports and getting off the TV or the iPad or whatever it may be. Like, what's the key differences that you see between now to then?
I think main difference is that we need to acknowledge we have this, it's based on human needs. So when I was growing up, mobile phones weren't even a thing. Like later in a secondary school and whatnot, they came around, but there were no Instagram or something like that. So the way you got connection, significance, variety, things like that really get people going, were through getting physically active. That was what happened in my country. Whereas now people can get significance, connection, variety, all those kind of things just through iPad. That's why there is no actual need to chase those emotions in any other way. Whereas for me, I couldn't just sit at home and stare at TV. I would just go brain dead. You know what I mean? There is only so many human needs that thing can kind of satisfy for me. So physical activity was always, you are done in a group, and, you always do something new every couple months. We did in school, for example, when you learn something for a few weeks or a couple months, then you got graded on it, and then you moved on to next thing. So you're always excited to do the stuff. It was never always same exact thing every single lesson.
Right.
And that's, like I said, the difference is now that you can get all those emotions. People always chase emotions. You can get all those emotions just by picking up your phone now. You'll get your variety, you get your significance, you get your certainty, you get everything that you were not able to get in, let's say, 10, 15, 20 years ago by sitting at home. You had to go out. Yeah.
But not necessarily getting in a healthy way these days compared to before.
And back then, it wasn't really focused on, hey, we need to get you healthy. It was just a school requirement. You had to be this way. And another thing probably was that really played into my hands. We didn't have any fast food in our country. Like none, zero. No McDonald's, no nothing. Everything was home cooked. Everything was homegrown. And that plays massive role in how it affects your body and how you actually can function. We can definitely talk about that later on as well.
Yeah. So, speaking on that, so, patterns are created from a young age. As you mentioned, you exercise quite regularly when you're young. You ate whole foods, not processed foods growing up. So that was already ingrained to you from a young age. So men who have, because we've had phones for a little while now and other devices such as, computers and video games, men that you see now in their sort of mid-20s to 35, roughly that range, 40, what are things that you're seeing in terms of their hormone levels and just general health?
Well, you have a lot of studies out there that men generally are mentally struggling to begin with. And there's often definitely a decline in testosterone, which is a bit tricky one because most of the studies on testosterone are done in what I would call advanced countries. I would like to see them doing study on testosterone levels in countries where you need to fight for survival. Because what testosterone does, it turns you a man. There's only so much, which means you need to be assertive, you need to be action taking, you need to be a little bit aggressive, all those kind of things. If you live at home with your phone, food delivered, everything you ever need in a pleasure of just one click and all those kind of things, there's only so much aggression you need in your life. There is so much assertion you need in life. So it kind of makes sense that your testosterone levels just dip. People don't even want to create babies anymore. It's Elon Musk brought it up that we're going to have crisis of human amount on a planet and whatnot. And people laugh at it. But when you look at it properly, China has this one child policy and whatnot. So every planet as such is aging, but it's not being
growing
substituted with younger generation, so to speak. There's much lower amount of younger people now, and that is directly linked to low testosterone because if you have low testosterone, you have low estrogen. Estrogen for males are responsible for your sex drive, so you want to mate less. You're just happy to sit at home and play your PlayStation and smoke weed and so on. I actually had one specific case with a person at 26 years age who had been smoking weed for 14 years since he was 12. And his brain had stopped sending signals to his testicles to create testosterone. Wow. So when he came to, he had a girlfriend and whatnot, and they had some kind of relationships and getting on for once a month or whatever. And I sent him to doctors, and they did a proper study. And then when they went into their behavioral patterns, and they said, this is because you were smoking weed so much, you were just so chilled for so long, your need for testosterone is not there. Your body recognizes it, and it doesn't produce it anymore. So even though studies keep saying that, yeah, testosterone levels are lower than they were, let's say, 50 years ago, but then at World War I, World War II, you had to be as alpha male, so to speak, as possible. Yeah. So your body probably responded to that by producing way more testosterone than you needed at that time. Well, let me rephrase that. It produces exactly the amount of testosterone you needed to survive.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you look on these declining things, it most likely looks like just environmental setting rather than anything else. And especially, that's just speculation, but the more calm and like the less you need to do stuff, the less your body will respond to throwing out those hormones that make you do stuff. You know, you have like homeostasis, where your body balances your pH, balances your body temperature, and all those kind of things. But there is also a term called like allostasis, where you forcefully change your body's physiology in terms of how many hormones you produce at what time, so you can execute the task. At moment, people who are watching this video most likely don't need to go out and hunt for food. No. So their need to be aggressive and assertive is very low. And body just responds to it properly. And just like, why do we need so much testosterone? We don't need it. Simple as. But it can take you down the path where you feel like you're not contributing to society anymore, because you're less assertive, less risk-taking, you get frightened, then you get all these exposure to sun in different time, not sun, sorry, but like screens and all these kind of things that send you different signals to your brain. And now you create more prolactin in your body just because it kind of preserves you from damaging yourself. But mixture of low testosterone, high prolactin, progesterone, all these kind of things can link to depressive thoughts.
So our body's not producing the testosterone because there's no need. So we're not necessarily, we've got nothing to have to go hunt. There's a lack of purpose is decreased. So our body is producing what we need. And then, so like you're saying, so prolactin, like estrogen, so those levels increase, which bring on as you're saying, the thoughts of where you feel a lack of purpose and, you know, like you're not contributing to society. So then is that where depression, all those mindsets?
Yeah, it can lead down a very, very, very dark path. And then you just try to seek some kind of pleasure, because we both are well aware that people seek progress. You know, if you're in relationships, you want something new, something happening, you know, maybe kids, maybe go on travels and whatnot. But if you stay exactly the same all the time, those relationships die. You know, same with your body, same as everything else. So that's why people are hooked up on video games. There's always something new. You kind of make progress all the time. But ideally, would be for somebody to go out and seek adventures. So if you are a male, you can do all sorts, but find something that is challenging for you. So you never get in the path of where you just try to survive. So to me, most of the issues could be solved by just taking time out for yourself, by doing something that is challenging you physically and mentally. And that might massively help all society.
Yeah. And the reduction of testosterone levels through generations, is that something that, so, you know, for instance, my great grandfather would have had X amount of testosterone, but because it's come down the line, I start with a deficit compared to what they would have 60, 70, 80 years ago. Is that pretty much as we're going, if we keep going down this path, then our kids and then their kids will have less and less, and that will become the norm. Is that how it's
that's what we see in studies. But like I said, those studies are predominantly done on what I would say more advanced like populations. I would really like to see that kind of study done on some tribes that just live in jungle and see what their testosterone levels are like, and see if there is actually correlation between lifestyle and testosterone levels. Like I said, your levels will definitely be much lower than your granddad had, because your granddad had to be always wired up. Hey, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I don't get this job? What if I don't get this promotion? What if war kicks off again? And these kind of things. And your body's natural response is, hey, let's throw in this in a charcoal, so to speak, and make sure that this guy is ready if something extreme happens. Whereas at the moment, we really don't have any need for that at all.
Yeah.
I would even argue that probably would be interesting to see people in military, how their testosterone levels have been affected through last decades, like 5, 6, 7.
Yeah. And, I've experienced a dose of, depression, and the cure as such, or the treatment, was Zoloft for 4 years. And it became addictive because it was like, okay, this is, relieving the pain temporarily. But once you try to get off it initially, it's quite challenging and hard. And then you go back onto it. How is that affecting the male hormone levels when a male goes on a medication like antidepressant to deal with those, high estrogen, prolactin levels?
Personally, when I have seen some people who come to me and they have been on something like that, if they stay on that, it actually dampens their testosterone levels. So you're taking something to kind of reduce effects which can be correlated to low testosterone, which suppresses your testosterone even more. So instead of depressed, let's say, you are feeling more like just emotionless. And you are even further enhancing that problem you had. The most of the time, I just ask people to do full blood test, and 99% of instances, their testosterone is very low. And then I ask them to go and talk to their GP to get them on testosterone replacement therapy. And as soon as they get on that, within a couple of weeks, they don't need anything anymore. They're like, oh, I feel great, and this and that. But that is an extreme approach. And for whatever reason, people who are prescribing antidepressants and whatnot, they are very reluctant to go that path, to check actual hormone levels and check your lifestyle behaviors before they prescribe you medicine. Because it's easy just to give you medicine and, hey, this is going to work. We know it's working. But we also have a hell of a lot of studies showing that antidepressants can lead to suicide. Why would you take something that's supposed to help you that can actually enhance your issue? It's beyond me, but doctors don't talk about it I still don't understand what reason. Maybe because they don't want to study more about it. They just take whatever is told them as at face value. And like I said, when I did my studies, I had to do like proper study and whatnot. But what I discovered is that everything I learned in that study I did is completely irrelevant to anyone else. Like literally, I had to take people who were in a gym for 3 to 4 years, and I had to class them as advanced athletes. I'm not being funny. 3 to 4 years, you're not advanced. You're still a beginner, especially if you had never had coaching from anyone else. Just because you have done some kind of sport for 3 to 4 years doesn't make you advanced in that. I have been driving cars ever since I remember, over 20 years. It doesn't mean I'm a good driver.
No.
Same applies to these things. So you need to take everything with a pinch of salt. So maybe that's why we have kind of lost that translation from a study to real lives, that, hey, yes, these studies were done. If you take this, it might dampen down your episodes of feeling suicidal and whatnot. But to me, it's just my personal opinion. What it looks like is it just makes you emotionless. And there's only so long you can go until you go back to starting point about what is the point of actually existence now. Whereas if you check your hormone levels and whatnot and start looking into, hey, what are your behaviors like? How much of time do you spend outside? What do you do for this and for that? We all know that whenever you, let's say, get depressed, is probably a too strong a word, but low on mood, you will have sequence of events you're going to follow. Let's say you're a 16-year-old teenager who just split up with your girlfriend. You're going to come home, you're going to dump in lights, you're going to put some sad playlist, you're going to look through some old photos, all this kind of thing, just to make yourself feel even worse. Yeah. Opposite is true. You can make yourself feel better. Yeah. You just need to recognize, hey, I'm going into this pattern. Let's delete this sad playlist from my phone. And let's put on something really powerful and enjoyable and do this stuff. That's why a lot of people keep telling that gym is their church or escape route or whatever, because they go there and they put a nice playlist that gives them energy. They are really involved with talking to people and all those kind of things. But then they go back home where they might have done this behavior to make themselves feel bad. And now brain clicks them. Hey, we're home. Let's put that sad playlist again. Let's think about this again. Dim those lights, and let's eat this cookie in a bedroom wrapped up in your blanket. So it's tricky. You can link hormones and whatnot, but to me, it's always not just hormones, but your behavior will affect your hormones and vice versa. Yeah. Which comes first? I am not qualified enough to come to that conclusion.
But it makes perfect sense. Like you're saying, the need for testosterone was so much more before because of the life conditions. So, and from my experience with taking the antidepressants, it does make you feel emotionless. So it blocks all those emotions that you would feel on a regular basis because you're not able to naturally regulate your emotions, what's going on. So if it blocks it, you feel less of a need you don't have as much energy, and, less need to have purpose, as you're mentioning. So your testosterone decreases, and then I can understand how then it could relate to people being further along that line of having those suicidal thoughts. And it's interesting, even with, there was a weight loss, this is a while ago, but a weight loss tablet that a doctor was trying to give me, and part of it had something to do with some sort of antidepressant, but it had the warning of this may cause suicidal thoughts. And it's like, why would I want to take anything that would give me suicidal thoughts, even if I was to lose weight? Like, what's the point of losing weight if I'm going to have suicidal thoughts? So it's like you're saying, the conditioning and the patterns that we create, whether it's our environment, whether it's people we associate with, whether it's in terms of the habits, like you're saying, eating that cookie wrapped in a blanket. If you're going to do that, you're going to feel like shit. You're not going to have all the energy and be feeling up and alive as if you were moving about or eating something healthy. How many times we've gone to celebration, filled our faces with food, and then felt absolutely terrible, and we just need to sleep, compared to if we ate something healthy and then you feel like you've got the energy to do anything. So it's a great correlation that we make, that in terms of behavioral patterns, as well as the decrease of testosterone and the lack of purpose, how that all interlinks with one another. So
what clicked for you to kind of look further into something else apart from antidepressants?
Well, one was that this is not working, and that I had actually some blood tests done, just because I had some other medical issues, like with my gut and so forth, and that brought up the low testosterone levels. So it wasn't that when I went and saw the doctor that they said, we need to do let's do a blood test before I prescribe you anything. Instead of doing that, going down that path, instead of just listening to what I'm telling him that I'm feeling and what's going on, it was just the first thing was actually the medication, where because I had gut issues. Because that was the only reasons that I had the blood works done was because of my gut issues, and then from that it was like, oh, okay, your testosterone levels are very, very low, and then that's how I got onto obviously the testosterone replacement therapy, because I had no desire for intimacy at all. I had no energy. I was relying on sugar to just get me by, copious amounts, and caffeine and so forth.
Did you spend much time outside?
What's that, sorry?
Did you spend much time outside when you were going through all that?
Yeah, because I was in construction at the time, I was naturally outside a fair bit. So I did have the exposure to the sun, and I was still moving because I had to walk and physical exercise. But I could only imagine if I didn't do that, how much worse I would have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
So doing nothing. Yeah,
and that's what a lot of people I work with that I see that they go through these episodes and they make everything 10 times worse by just wrapping themselves in a bubble and never talking to anyone and all those kind of things. But more often than not, it might sound rough. Men don't want to talk; they want to do. If you put someone like that somewhere out there, like you said, in construction, you might be better off than actually talking to somebody oftentimes. Because there's nothing worse than having a bad advice from someone who doesn't understand you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, the question that you asked, was I outside much and so forth? What would be the difference between someone that was outdoors, quite often, like I was with construction and moving, compared to someone that would have an office job, that wouldn't be exposed to the sun as much and wouldn't get that ability to be as mobile and moving around and active?
Yeah, we see a lot of correlation with people who spend a lot of time outside, that they are having easier experience at losing body fat. They're actually feeling healthier. Obviously, if your skin exposed to sun, you're going to get better vitamin D absorption and creation in your body as well. So at the moment, I live in UK, and it's kind of winter, springish time, and it's always dark outside. And my vitamin D levels are still low, even though I supplement myself with them. So I need to spend more time outside even now. But so people who don't go outside at all, we know their vitamin D levels are very low. And also their circadian rhythm, the way your body goes through days and how it produces hormones to get excited in the morning, be really energetic midday, and then starting to fall asleep and feeling slightly lethargic at night is messed up, because your body doesn't understand what the hell is happening now. Is it morning? Is it night? Is it day? So this leads to elevated cortisol levels for extended period of time, which leads to myriad other problems, high inflammation, poor recovery, which will lead to poor mood. And here we go again. We actually make everything worse whilst we are already in a bad place.
Yeah.
That's a quick summary. There's obviously a million other things happening.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that you see that actually help men transition from that poor state where they're not necessarily getting, they're not moving as much, they're not getting exposure to the sun, they've got the poor, bad health habits, in terms of eating and the list goes on. What are the things? Because these days there's so much thrown at us in terms of in 60 days go from fat pack to six pack and all these things. So what are the things that you actually see that actually achieve a long-term result than in terms of men trying to look for these quick fixes when they're in that situation?
First and foremost, I would say environment, even though I said, hey, men don't like to talk and whatnot. And this is why gym is great. You can go to gym, hook up with a couple other guys and never speak to them a word and have a good time. So that definitely helps people get out of that bad mood and whatnot. So every time I've had a person who had these really bad blood tests and everything else, I would try to spend a lot of time with them. Hey, come and train with me, which I rarely do with anyone. But, even if we didn't talk, they would feel great about it. Another thing is getting in a daily habit of recognizing good things about it. You can't feel sad and happy at the same time. Yeah. You can't laugh and cry. Well, you can, but it's going to be either joyful cry or, you're not going to be in funeral and laugh about someone's death. Right. And not unless you completely messed up. So understanding that you need to train your brain to see what is good. There is always some kind of pattern how you get triggered to feel bad. And then how you, like I was talking about, stack everything else on top of it to feel even worse, just to get that significance. Hey, look how bad I am. You can do completely opposite by feeling good. Just recognize something that happened good in your life and then stack it up. Well, hey, I'm still alive. I have these great memories about this thing. This led me to this kind of situation. That led me to hooking up with this person or going on this adventure. And when you start thinking about that, you forget about everything else. So those are two main things. And definitely being aware that what you see in front of a mirror is not a reflection of how you actually feel. So doing blood tests regularly is very important for maintaining not just men's health, any kind of health. Like we do blood tests all the time. I do mine every 3 months just to kind of acknowledge where I am. I went on a trip in December and I did blood tests just before. And it already showed me that I am gonna get sick if I don't look after myself, which I had no chance to do for 6 days. I was in a seminar for 16-hour long days, and then no sun exposure and air conditioning, poor nutrition, all those kind of things. And by the end of it, I got ill. I already knew I'm going to get ill. So definitely doing your blood tests, exposing yourself to environments that's nurturing you in a sense of good mood, and acknowledging everything good that's happened in your day. Because most of the time, if you wake up every single day and just think about how bad your job is, how you're not making enough, and maybe your kids don't love you because you're not a millionaire, and God knows what else can go through your mind, is not going to do you any good.
No.
Try to, if you feel bad, acknowledge, be self-aware of why you're feeling like that and what else might be happening in your days that worsens it, and do the opposite.
Yeah.
That could be a great strategy.
It's just as much as a mindset, or the mindset is just as critical as the actual physical activity.
Absolutely.
If I'm getting that right. So make sure you surround yourself.
So when you look at the way I can describe it is, if you are trying to lose weight and you come home and you have some kind of pastry, some cakes in a kitchen and whatnot, you're starting to think about it. You start to get hungry. You feel the saliva in your mouth and you're like, oh, this is going to taste great. And your body starts to rumbling, because every single time you see that kind of thing, your body acknowledges what's happening, and it will start creating your hormones for your hunger and all those kind of things. They're going to elevate them before you even eat. Same exact thing happens with everything else. You can train your body what kind of hormones to produce by just expecting something. Let's say you go to the gym and I send you a training plan and you go, God almighty, this is horrible. You get excited already. You have high adrenaline and you're going to perform in the gym. Yeah. You know what I mean? Whereas if you have something that's that easy, you just go to the gym, I'm just going to flow through this. So your brain will directly respond to what you expect. And if you expect just how bad life is, your body will respond accordingly and throw out those hormones to make it even worse.
Yeah. And I can definitely agree with you on that one, because I've seen some of the workouts that you sent me, and I'm like, I'm going to need some serious energy for this one. And it ends up being like nearly, obviously because I'm preparing for an event, but if I was to look at the program before going into the gym, I don't feel necessarily like I'm in the mood or that I'm ready for it. But as soon as I know that, I look at it and my mind goes, okay, this is what we need to switch on. And then once you finish the workout, you're like, wow, like I was able to achieve, to complete the workout, and I feel great. Where before at the start, I wasn't necessarily 100%, ready, excited for the whole thing. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives you a little bit of anxiety. It gives you a little bit of kind of fear. That it releases your catecholamines, so adrenaline, all those kind of things. So that releases your nutrients in your bloodstream. So it takes maybe up to 45 minutes to really have that energy dump in your body, and you just go through it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to gym just to go through motions, you rarely get there. You just go to gym to get tired. You never go to gym and get excited and actually enjoy it anymore.
Yeah. Like from today's workout, I'm at the end of it, on the last conditioning workout, I'm on all fours, sweating, and I'm looking at people as they're leaving. I'm like, they don't even look like they've even done anything. And I'm like, and I think that's probably why I didn't enjoy the gym for so long, because I didn't feel like I was pushed and challenged as I have been with training with yourself for the last 6-7 months. But there's always variety. So there's definitely a lot of variety there. There's definitely growth because of, the progress, and even with the injury that I had last year, still being able to maintain that growth and not allow it to affect everything else. And I definitely feel significant about myself once I finish it, because I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Yeah, because if you're only one on that floor sweating, you're going to be so significant in that gym. It's beyond imagination.
Yeah. But another thing that I've experienced with training with yourself, which I didn't really see how much value was in it, the fundamental basics of body movement and being able to control your body, and how important that is compared to trying to just jump on a bench and push ridiculous weights to just show that you can lift, weight, but not actually being able to have good body control, and how much the basics actually helped me, with the foundations I needed to be able to, do more that I've ever done before at the age of, 37. So can you explain a bit more about that in terms of the actual understanding of what is really important to build good, healthy, bodies, and for not only strength, but, obviously longevity?
Yeah, people tend to forget all the great new things, which probably people look at you and think you do something fancy, is actually well forgotten old. I have the training style from my upbringing, from my school. We did basic stuff like hops, jumps, middle sprints, walks, crawls on your all fours, just to warm up every single time we started a sports lesson. And then we would go into gymnastics or playing basketball or volleyball or whatever. It's extremely important because when you do any kind of compound movement, all your little accessory muscles are the ones that might give up. So you might have really strong chest, but if your shoulder is not up to par, you got to pull something. So doing push-ups is probably going to add to your bench press way more results than just doing bench press on its own.
Yeah.
And also being spatially aware is something that people never train. So one of the things, what I sometimes ask my guys to do is just stand on one foot, close your eyes, and how long you can stand there without falling over. And people are surprised how actually tough it is just to stand on one leg. With open eyes is great. Close your eyes. You don't have any spatial awareness anymore.
Yeah.
And you just go all over the place. And it's one of the reasons why so many people who go to gym and look extremely buff and train and whatnot, and then they sneeze and pull their back because they have never trained those little tiny muscles that are involved in day-to-day life. It's like Kimi Raikkonen. His wife once gave an interview, F1 champion, and she said, he can't reverse a car. We have a roundabout at home in our front yard so we can turn the car around because he don't know how to reverse a car. So he just one-dimensional. He knows how to go fast forward. That's it. And that's what people do in the gyms. They just know how to go fast in one direction, and that's it. Whereas my goal is to kind of teach people that, hey, when you go to age of 50, 60, 70, 90, whatever, you won't be in a gym pushing those hard weights, but you still want to pick up your grandkids, pick up your dog or whatever, being able to do day-to-day things without anyone else's help. And if you don't look after that now, you're just going to have a much harder way of life when you get older. And as weird as it sometimes feels like, hey, I'm wasting my time on doing these things, people who actually incorporate body weight stuff into their training sessions tend to be much stronger than those who don't. That's just given.
Yeah. So so really for people, starting with the basics, such as body weight movements and making sure that you've got them, is far more important than joining a CrossFit gym straight away.
And the biggest challenge is because ego gets in the way. Oh, I want to squat 2 plates aside, whatever terms they use. You have specific language in a gym and CrossFit gym or whatever. So they always want to do this to feel significant. But great thing with you have a goal in mind. So that need for immediate significance is much lower than feeling significant once you're going to be in that event. So you're put away your ego, and now you're doing the right thing for the task at hand. Whereas a lot of people join gym and they never have that kind of goal, and they just want to have immediate significance there and then. So they leave that stuff away. Hey, why should I do push-ups when I can do bench press? Why should I do some bunny hops when I can do leg press? And in the long run, it just fires back on them. And there is only so much weight you need to use to be healthy. But when ego gets in the way, you always do something silly that just harms your joints. You overuse them and you end up with injury, which is never a smart idea.
So really a male in their 40s, 50s doing the fundamentals and looking after those kind of things can actually live a lot healthier, and it can actually be stronger physically than a 20-year-old trying to do all these other things and not looking after the basics. And like you're saying, they're not the key sort of the small muscles that actually help build that actual strength. They don't have any of that at all.
Yeah, and when you look on best athletes on a planet, what they usually do is they progress with their strengths and kind of athleticism up until age of 25. Now with the science and everything up until age of 30. And afterwards, it's maintaining it as long as you can. Tom Brady coins the term playability, which is basically now when you are younger, you maybe spend 50 to 70% of just being strong and jacked and just as physically empowering as you can, because your hormones are really geared up towards recovering quick. You don't have much stress. You don't need to look after kids. You don't need to do anything else. You just go eat, train, go home to your mom. She's going to cook for you and everything's fine. Once you get to adulthood, now you need to look after yourself. You run a business. You work for something. If you're in sports kind of team, you have a responsibility to perform well. So there are a lot of external stresses. Now your ability to gain strength and gain muscle slows down drastically. Now you need to really focus on how long you can maintain this. Because let's be honest, only so strong you need to be in life. There's no need for anyone to bench press 200 kilos. It's just silly. Yeah. As long as you can maintain your body weight, it's great. And now it becomes how long you can maintain this. Because the older you get, the more what happens first is you start losing appetite. So your protein intake diminishes. When you don't eat enough protein, your muscle regeneration slows down. When muscle regeneration slows down, your strength starts to go down. If you're not as strong, your bone density starts to disappear because you're not using so much resistance anymore, and so on and so forth. So, and you can put that on a pause, so to speak, by just being more active now and trying to maintain that. I've had a client who once said to me, "Oh, I don't make any progress anymore." And I'm like, "You are 45 years old with 2 kids. One is just a couple years old. You played rugby for all of your life. You are beaten up inside and out. You are the leanest, strongest, and fastest you've ever been. And you are not getting worse. This is your progress."
Yeah.
Like, what else do you expect at this age? At this age, you should be and you look apart from all your friends whom you played rugby for 10, 20 years. And then it kind of opens their eyes like, "Oh, damn it, I never thought about it this way." Because what we see in social media is 6-week transformation, 12-week transformation, whatever. Whereas you are an older guy now. You need to focus on being a really valuable person for your society, for your family, for everything like that, and just staying healthy. And that is progress, because most of the people that, like, their late 40s, 50s, they just start to fall apart.
Yeah. So looking more for longevity, like you're saying, there's no need to bench press 200 kilos because that's actually not going to help you on your day-to-day life. But if you're able to maintain and not digress and get worse in age, then obviously that's a win in itself. And probably, like what you're saying, looking for the good things in everything instead of looking for what you actually don't have and what you're not actually achieving.
Yeah.
It seems like that mindset is crucial, especially as you're getting older.
You froze a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we're back. So if I'm a dad, as you're saying, young kids, I've got a business. What are the in terms of three things that you'd say to them as a fundamental to be able to just maintain a good, healthy lifestyle and things to look out for to be able to, keep that progress and not be going backwards. So they're feeling healthy, they're feeling fit, and they're able to give the energy that their families need, as well as, their businesses and all their careers that they're in.
Number one thing what I tell everyone who has their own business, family, and kids is, if you have kids, you have an unfair advantage over everyone else, because now you have free cardio equipment. And that cardio equipment can be made in a lot of fun things. You can go play some ball. You can do all sorts. Even if you go and play some arcades with your kids, whatever. People don't understand that to be fit and healthy, you don't need to spend time in gym. You just need to be physically active.
Yeah.
And if you have kids, now you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. You can get to connect with your kids and be physically active. Use that as often as you can. Plan 2-3 evenings in a week with your kids and just go outside and play something. When I was growing up, I was doing that every single night.
Yeah.
Like we were living in a 12-flat building, and there were like younger couples, so to speak, in their 20s, like late 20s, early 30s, who would come out and bring all kids outside every single night, and we would play some kind of games. That was another reason why everyone was healthy. You were always being involved in that. So if you're busy and you have kids and you want to kind of set some kind of example, get those kids involved with you. Show them, hey, this is how I maintain my health. This is how I maintain my energy. Another thing is what I always emphasize is, if you want to stay fit and healthy, focus on eating like an adult and taking your resistance training or CrossFit training or any kind of athletic training as a child. Make it your playground. Don't go there too serious about like, oh yes, I'm going to die for this. And you hear all kind of weird things. It's just silly things people talk about. No, make it fun. Play around with it. Like if I have some kind of training partners, we will not talk whilst we are training, but between sets, we'll just joke around, make it entertaining. And with nutrition, a lot of times people go into fasting, detoxing, all the crazy things. More often than not, you don't need to do anything like that. If you get everything at home, that is something that you need to prepare. So let me say you need to cook your burgers or cook your pasta or peel your potatoes or whatever. If you have those kind of foods at home, there is very small amount of chance that you will overeat that. Instead of coming home and you have a cheesecake there lying about and all those kind of things. Then calorie counting becomes even irrelevant. If you are disciplined enough to not hold at home foods that are highly processed, can affect your appetite, can give you like wrong satiety signals and everything else. So let's say, for example, if you come at home and you sit at home with all your lights on in front of TV, it sends the wrong signal to your brains that you are in the middle of the day now, that you need extra energy, even if you're well fed.
Yeah.
And now your body will crave some kind of sugary stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, I have a pastry in a cupboard. I'm going to go and get that. If you don't have anything like that, if you need to go and boil a bloody potato, there's very, very low risk of overeating your calories and now starting to form adipose tissue, which increases your rate of aromatase production in your body, which converts your testosterone to estrogen. And here you go again down the really dark road about feeling moody, even depressed, easily irritated, and so on and so forth. So for someone who is looking into getting healthier, fitter, spend as much time as you can outside with your kids.
Yeah.
Define and live by example of eating like an adult and approach your fitness and health in terms of this being your kind of back to the childhood approach. You know, it doesn't have to be through resistance training. It can be going out and shooting basketball. It can be doing some sprints on the backyard with your dog. Many other things you can do.
Make it fun.
Don't overcomplicate anything. It needs to be fun.
Yeah. Awesome. They're great tips. And look, yeah, I appreciate you obviously coming on the show and giving us all this great information. And I'm definitely, I can vouch for, what you believe in terms of your training methods and everything, because I'm 37, stronger than I've ever been before and fitter than I've ever been before. So definitely have had the benefits from working with you. So if people want to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way for them to connect?
Best would be probably Instagram. I'm not a big fan of Facebook. I use Twitter, YouTube. They can find really good information on YouTube, what they can follow straight away and which will change their life if they do. Instagram would be the easiest. Next after that would be an email. Because on Instagram, I have links how to get in touch with me in my bio. And probably LinkedIn would be number 3. So Instagram, email, LinkedIn number 3, and Facebook. I rarely read any messages there because I don't have it on my laptop, and on my phone I don't have a messenger. Yeah. I might get notifications such and such because messaged you, but I have no way of opening it. So
yeah,
and the easiest way will be definitely going through my social media on Instagram and emailing me.
Okay. And your YouTube channel, which you said has got heaps of information and definitely worth having a listen to. What's that channel called? It's
just my name. So Juris Skribans. Okay. I know it's hard to pronounce it, but just type it in my name and people will be easy to find.
Well, we'll chuck the link definitely in the description below for people to go to. But yeah, definitely anyone, if you're genuinely serious about changing your life with your health, I highly recommend Juris for you to go and connect with him because it's made a huge difference in my life and I'm sure he'll also make a huge difference in yours. So thanks again for being on the show, and everyone As always, remember, you're stronger than you think you are. Stay resilient. Hey everyone, I really appreciate you listening to today's show. It means a lot to me that you are part of the journey and mission to help fathers be the best dads possible. I'd really appreciate it if you review the show and share it with someone you genuinely believe could benefit from this content. Please visit resilientdad.com for more content and resources as we build this community for dads everywhere.